My hard reset wasn't necessarily by choice.
Okay.
I was a college golf coach for almost a decade. And one thing led to another where I was actually let go after what arguably was my best season as a coach.
Welcome to Hard Reset. This is a podcast exploring life's unexpected turns, what happened, why it happened, and how it shaped the future of our lives. We obviously have the roofing side down, but we really wanted to explore the reset side of this. And so today we brought Wyatt in. And I'm very excited about this episode because Wyatt has this crazy kind of hard reset in his life where his dad is this famous artist and he wants to become an artist. And so he goes to this very fancy art school and then all of a sudden becomes this golf coach that turns into a sales manager role at a roofing company and all the things that kind of happened in his life. So very excited for you guys to watch it. Let's jump in. Wyatt Graff, welcome.
Thank you.
To a hard reset. I am so excited that you're here.
I'm looking forward to it.
I have so many questions about you that I want to ask you because I'm fascinated by your art history, by the great Wyatt Graff, who is your dad. And yeah, I think first things first is we have to talk about how we know each other.
Okay.
So I would love, how did we meet?
So in an earlier chapter of my life, when life led me to Polo Golf and Country Club as the assistant pro, I think you and I interacted over the course of about 10 or 11 months.
Yeah.
It was right during COVID, basically. So 2019, 2020, I think. And then you got to see how I work. And basically, I think you liked two things. You liked my work ethic and you liked my ability to connect with people. And you said, come do that for me.
Yeah. It's funny. Your customer service, you're somehow ingrained in you as serving people. Mm-hmm. And I love that about you. I can still see, I was on the 8th hole and I can see you coming up with a fellow member's son. I see that moment. I see the moment of you are genuine and you care. And I remember the ice maker conversation that I went to you and I was like, hey man, I think you would crush at this. And then I also remember the conversation with you where Jay Smooth, shout out to Smoothie. Jay Smooth and I were in my basement and we called you and we were like, hey, Wyatt, we want to offer you the job. After all these interviews and all these people, and Jay and I are very much I wouldn't say we wing it all the time, but we were just like, hey, we want to offer you the job. And I'll never forget. You were like, man, that's so exciting. If I could have a couple days to think about it. I was like, what is there to think about?
And now that you know me more, you know exactly that this is Wyatt and this is how Wyatt's makeup is.
Yeah.
And so it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we know each other, which is just fascinating to me. And you're so different than me and you're different than Jay and a lot of the staff. But you still bring this servant leadership that you have. And your new role here at Reset is what?
I'm now the sales manager, and so I'm in charge of training current and incoming sales talent and kind of overseeing the team and being the liaison between the sales team and you.
Yeah, I love that. Growing up, the son of Wyatt Graff, what did you think your life was going to be like?
I grew up in Medina, Ohio, which is just south of Cleveland.
Where, if this is Ohio, is
north up by the lake.
Okay. Which lake?
Lake Erie. So
okay.
20 minutes south, 25 minutes south. We were the last suburb before you got to pure farmland, basically. And then the next city you'd hit going down 71 would be Columbus, and that's an hour and a half south. So I'm a Buckeye.
Yeah.
But a big Browns fan, Indians fan, Guardians fan.
No, Indians is
Cavs
fun.
fan. But yeah, so I mean, I grew up 2 blocks from downtown Medina, which is like a historic small town. Grew up in an 1885 Victorian home.
No way.
That's the only home I know. Never moved, which is also very different from my wife, who moved like every 2 years growing up, and so we had a lot of conversation of what that was like. But again, I walked to school 5 blocks to Garfield Elementary, and walked 2 blocks down to the middle school, and then my dad would drop me off at high school on his way up to teach at a different high school.
So your dad's a teacher?
He was a high school art teacher.
Okay.
And then in the summers, that's where he would teach workshops throughout the country, because he is a very well-known watercolorist, and watching him kind of build his craft and just the talent level that he has is it's amazing. And it was something that I was always around. And so it was almost by just the environment of being around creativity is what kind of led me to my creative pursuits earlier in my life. And, but also this high esteem for just work ethic and determination and things of that nature.
That's interesting you say that. Are you, do you have any siblings?
I have an older sister. She's about 4.5 years older than me. We were never in school together other than elementary school. So like when she graduated high school, I was still middle school. So we never crossed paths that way, but she was a model for success. She was top 5 in her high school class. She went to Purdue for engineering, and just did show choir, just was so active in so many things that she was a trailblazer for me. And again, let me follow her lead, but also as the second child with a lot more leniency. So,
So, all right, you just walked outside, your nostrils are frozen, and you close your eyes and you're like, I'm going to be this when I grow up. What was that for you?
looking back, I had always wanted to do architecture. I was always good at math. The creativity side was always there as well. And I wanted to actually go into golf course architecture.
Really?
Big golfer. Growing up, I played soccer and golf, and
You're the second athlete I've had
in this chair.
In this chair.
All right. Well, yeah. And it was something that when I just kind of got burnt out with soccer, and so I went to golf full time. It ended up helping pay for school, which was great. But I went into architecture to start with, and I just thought I'd be designing golf courses, designing buildings, designing something later on in life. And that was kind of the goal probably ever since halfway through high school.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you went to college with the idea that you wanted to be an architecture major. Mm-hmm. And did you get an architecture major degree?
No. So I went down to SCAD down in Savannah.
Okay.
And the premise at SCAD is that regardless of whatever creative major you want to go into, you're going to take these foundation courses, drawing 1, drawing 2, color theory, things of that nature, because you're going to set the foundation and then you're going to branch off into your degree. And ironically, for being in such a creative household, I didn't take a lot of art in high school other than choir, because I got that at home. So I never took the elective of taking an art class. So going to SCAD and taking these drawing 1 classes, color theory classes, I realized I had more of a talent than I had ever really experienced before. You know, I just thought it was natural being a watercolorist and being the son of a watercolorist and being able to draw this and draw that. But then when I went to SCAD and did these classes, I was usually one of the top 2 or 3 in my class. I'm like, well, these are pretty good. And so I got a little bit of an affinity for the fine arts. I took architecture classes. I got an A in it, but then I just realized this is not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. A large component of it was my intimidation of technology. I didn't want to be doing AutoCAD for hours upon end at a computer. I'm more of an outside guy. And so again, I changed over to illustration, which is a little more fine art type, but it's fine art kind of with a purpose, or at least a little bit of marketing in there. And that's what I did for my undergrad degree.
Yeah. Okay. So we have named the podcast Hard Reset, right? So the premise behind a hard reset is like, oftentimes in our life, there's these moments that we've had. Me personally, I've probably had like 3, 4, 5 hard resets. But I'm very curious for you to know what maybe the most quintessential hard reset that you've had in your life, where you were basically like, enough is enough. I'm tired of my life being this way, or I want to challenge myself, and where you just had to go in and hit the hard reset and do a 180 from where you were going. And I just want to know about that moment for you.
My hard reset wasn't necessarily by choice.
Okay.
I was a college golf coach for almost a decade. And one thing led to another where I was actually let go after what arguably was my best season as a coach.
Tell me about, what does that mean, the best season?
I had taken my women's golf team to the national championship for the 4th consecutive year.
Wow.
My men's golf team had their best statistical golf season ever.
You were the coach of the ladies and
Men and the women.
Yeah.
And I had started the program. And so the men had their best season stroke average wise, and we did it with 5 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and 1 junior. And so again, the writing for success was literally on the wall. And I was basically told that my services were no longer needed. And for the next 8 months, it was a whirlwind. I mean, it was unemployment. It was applying for 3 jobs a week just to collect unemployment. It was just a bunch of different variables that, for having a relatively smooth life until then, it was my first moment of flux, basically, and it was really hard on me mentally, emotionally. On my wife was just such a rock through it. But again, it put pressure on her to be the sole breadwinner until I could find what I was doing. And having most of my experience being a golf coach, that doesn't translate so easily to other facets with a degree in illustration and a master's in painting. So it's not like jobs were just falling in my lap every day. And that's actually what led me to polo. Polo was one of the first jobs that I applied for in maybe late summer, early fall of 2019. And then when 2020 came around, March of 2020, the head pro called me in, and I had applied for really anything just to help make some money and make ends meet. And I got the job as the assistant pro.
Awesome. Okay. So do you remember, so you had just said that you had applied 3 jobs a day.
3 jobs a week.
3
That
jobs
was
a week.
minimum just to collect unemployment benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so unemployment benefits is you lose your job and you can get federal funding, right? Unemployment benefits. Does that cover your health care?
No.
Okay.
No. It was I want to say $312 a week after taxes, $256 a week. Not that I've memorized it.
You're really good with numbers.
And it was, I think, is 15 or 16 weeks max is what they would pay. And so again, I applied for a FedEx delivery guy. I applied for anything and everything just to get something, even as a holdover. And then again, polo came about. And so again, the next big reset, if you want to call it that, was when you came to me and offered to me the position here.
Yeah. So tell me about, all right, you're an artist, you're Frederick Graff's son, his only son. You want to design golf courses, right? You have this like storied past of like creativity.
Yeah.
And then one day I come down and find you and I say, hey, Wyatt, I think you'd be great at that. And tell me about that. Well, how it made you feel. How did it make you feel when I came to you and said, hey man, I think you would be well led in this position?
It was awesome. First off and foremost, you came to me and you said, I see how hard you work. I see how well you work with our fellow members at the club. I want you to do just that, just with my customers. And you, again, I'd known what you'd done very briefly, and roofing, again, I think I told you, I said, I know nothing about roofing and I'm scared of heights. And you said, you'll get over it and I'll teach you everything I know. You just do what I've seen you do. And that was comforting to me because, again, the work ethic and the servant leadership, that is something that, again, comes natural to me. It was ingrained in me growing up through my family. And so that made sense to me. The whole roofing component did not make sense to me. But again, it was something where you offered me an opportunity to ultimately do something that was right up my alley as far as being outside, being with people, helping people, and then in return, helping my family. It gave me some flexibility with being able to coach Emmett's baseball games, just being more active in his life, and provide better for my family. So that was obviously first and foremost. But when I went home and told my wife that, her face, I wish I could reenact it for you.
Yeah,
but I think still even
this camera right here. Yeah,
so
we would love to see this reaction of, hey, Katie, I was offered a job, and she's like, oh, that sounds great. I'm sure at a golf course, these are just wonderful jobs at UPS or KitchenAid.
the phrase deer in headlights would be very appropriate for I mean, again, even 4.5 years later, I think she sometimes still thinks like, this is not the guy I met down at SCAD, 20 years ago, but you just do what you have to do. And I always say that I could do a lot of different things. There was never like, this was meant for me. But being here and doing what I'm doing, I do feel like this is just what I was meant to do. Through the way the universe works.
Yeah.
And that's the way life goes. It has many different twists, but again, it's something that sometimes I do pinch myself and be like, this is great. But at the same time, I'm still like, roofing sales.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's, I would have loved to, with the technology that we have now, like it would just been great to be we'd have 1 million views probably if I had set up a camera and said, hey, honey, guess what? I got offered a job today. Do you remember immediately what she said? Like right out of the gate?
She probably said,
it's okay. This is a safe place. It's just you and me.
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I know she said just like, what? Roofing? What? You don't even know anything about roofs. You don't even like heights, do you? And so it was along those lines.
So like the stars were not aligned for this.
I mean, they were, but it took a lot of convincing. And there was a whole thing of like, hey, I'm going to get a truck to drive around and we can get rid of my car. We can save on insurance payments. We can save on car payments. And she's like, you're not getting rid of your car. And I think we had my car for probably 6 or 8 months. And then she finally got to the point like, all right, this is going to work out.
Yeah.
And, but again, that's just our conservative and safe nature of being a little, again, because things caught us off guard earlier in life. We're a little protective, but again, it's worked out well.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the ability to recruit people to a roofing company, right? Because roofing is not sexy. And at the end of the day, like it's a trade, right? Like plumbing and HVAC, we need it though. Mm-hmm. So what would you tell someone, that was thinking maybe about getting into the trade or working at a roofing company? What would be your take on that?
The saying is death and taxes. Well, it's death, taxes, and roofs because everybody's got a roof. And so, it is something that is a necessity for everybody. And, it's not about money. I mean, that's nice, but it's, again, when you can help somebody solve their issue, somebody calls in with water dripping in on their forehead at night. Again, they want you to come out and get it done immediately.
Has that ever happened?
What's that, water dripping in?
On a forehead?
Possibly.
Okay.
I mean, in the whole...
But not any of your customers.
Not off the top of my head, pun intended. But yeah, being able to help somebody and the belief and the trust in what we do, that's nice because not every company in our industry is that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What, looking back now, what do you think motivated you? I know that maybe you were forced into motivating on your first hard reset, mm-hmm. right? But then what motivated you to maybe do the second reset? To
come here?
Yeah.
Honestly, I had watched, through the 10 or 11 months I was at Polo, I watched how other members responded to you, how you treated other employees at Polo. And I basically said, that's somebody I want to work for. And that was kind of the deciding factor. And that's, again, credit to you because you didn't know somebody's always watching you. But again, I was, and it was something that I took seriously because I'd come from a place where it wasn't great to work for somebody. It wasn't great to be in a certain atmosphere and to be in this more familial type of working environment, working with you and Tracy and being a smaller, close-knit company is what I was meant to do. And it's obviously, I think you'd agree, I'm thriving here and we're still just scratching the surface.
Yeah. I think you're definitely thriving here. Do you feel like because you've grown up with this, creative past and your family is very creative, do you feel that this job enables you to be creative, and how?
Whew. When I look back at the family side of things, my mom's side has sales in their side of the family. My dad's side has a lot of creative side. And I think this is a blend of both, creatively solving problems, creatively communicating, finding unique ways of setting yourself apart from the competition, both visually and just how we communicate is probably advantageous. Climbing a roof is climbing a roof.
Sometimes you have to be creative.
But sometimes you have to be creative about how to get up there. I would say that my photos and company camera are probably the best in the company. Every composition is well thought out. But yeah, there's it definitely lends itself to it.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say that your life's been like since that reset? Like, did this free up? Did it take more time?
I think I make as much time as I need to. And there are some weeks that you have to work 70 hours, and then there's some weeks that you can work 30. And sometimes you work 30 and you make more money than the ones you work 70. But that's, again, some of the unpredictability in sales is you don't know when a whale's going to fall in your lap and they sign the next day, and you work 6 months on something and you don't close it. So it is unpredictable. But again, if you have your way of selling, which again is probably different than yours, even though the premise is the same, and I've learned from you, Malia's, Dan's, everybody's approach is different and unique. But as long as we approach that with the same intent as I know we do here at Reset, then we're going to be successful.
So what would you say, what would Katie say, your wife, or Emmett say, that your life is like now versus what it was like?
I used to travel 22 weeks out of the year, Sunday through Tuesday, typically, sometimes Sunday through Thursday. And so being home, I mean, that's more than a third of the year. If you think about it, as far as weeks of the year, I was traveling 21, 22, because again, I was coaching 2 teams. And so when you have 10 tournaments and then a national championship, that's 21 right there. And again, being the only coach, I couldn't travel with both teams together because I didn't have an assistant coach. And so,
so you led both teams by yourself.
Both teams by myself. And so that was actually part of, I would say a pretty big sticking point at the job, is that I wasn't getting what other people got to help them succeed. But again, it's just one of those things where sometimes you just deal with the hand that you're given, and you either play cards or you start a new game. And that's ultimately what I'm doing.
Yeah. Do you have one of your students or an athlete that you could just think of off the top of your head that maybe not necessarily that you impacted, but maybe that he impacted you? And what was that impact?
Every single one of my golfers that I brought to play for the university, they were my family. They were my kids. Because at the time when I started coaching, I didn't have kids. And I mean, I gave promises to parents that they're leaving their child with me. And I felt like I was going to be their father away from home, their mother away from home, their professor, because I went through the same classes they went through, but I'm going to be their professor, just not in the classroom with them. And I was going to teach them things about life, golf, how to succeed at school, things of that nature. And honestly, all of them have left a different impact on my life in a different way. So it would be unfair to pick out one, honestly, because they were all so significant. I had a young man who had cancer like the second year of coaching.
No way.
And he had to go through, 20 weeks of chemo. No, I'm sorry, 20 weeks every other week. And a couple of those weeks, the guys would still go practice and I'd go with him to the hospital. Sometimes one of his teammates would go with him to his session. It was a 4-hour session. And so, there were just coaching there's so many stories to go with coaching. But again, he was successful. He overcame everything. And, it was just one of those happy endings basically that, you want to hear about and you read about and you probably see on ESPN at a smaller school. You don't necessarily see it. But it was, again, every golfer that came through, whether they were the best golfer or not the best golfer, left an impacting mark on my life.
Did they call you Coach or Coach Wyatt? Or?
There was anything. There was Coachy, Coach Graff, Coach Wyatt. I'm trying to think if I'm sure there were ones behind the scenes that I never knew. And believe it or not, I was hard on my players. I mean, I believed in a lot of discipline and I had golden rules of like, when you play the game of golf, it's typically it's for you and only you. So your decisions only affect you. But in college golf, your decisions affect the rest of your team because you play 5 golfers, you count the 4 best scorers. And so, if you're going to go for a par 5 and 2 and you're going to bring in potentially a triple bogey into play just to have an eagle come into play, I, again, was very risk averse in my coaching. And we played the statistics. We played the high percentages because I knew 1 or 2 guys was going to get a birdie. And if we can take away the worse than pars, we were going to play that hole under par. And so I was very strategic, sometimes too strategic in my coaching. But that's just the way I'm kind of built up. And every coach has their way. Yeah.
How do you think you can take coaching into your new position now?
I mean, mentoring is a part of kind of who I am and wanting to see everybody succeed as a whole, an all for one for all type of mentality. And so being able to, critique and offer feedback is great, but also celebrate the victories, celebrate the accomplishments. You've got to do both of that. You can't just be critique. You've got to celebrate the groundbreaking things. And in coaching, the same thing is we would pat somebody on the back for winning the tournament as a medalist. But if we didn't win the tournament as a team, it didn't matter. Oh. And so we would celebrate the team victories far more than the individual victories. Well, again, they were important. We'd rather win as a team than as an individual. And I think in this sales atmosphere, we want to win as a team, not just as individuals.
Do you have a customer in mind that you don't want to talk about right now?
No, I don't actually. The one that I hadn't seen for 8 months and basically insinuated that I had put on probably 30 pounds since he had seen me last. That one might come to mind, but it is what it is. And life on the road, you're eating out of your truck some days, but I've managed to go the other way.
I think people would love to hear that story.
Okay.
And this is a story from Polo, right in the neighborhood. He wasn't a golfer, but I think the people need to hear this story.
Okay. So we ended up we got a roof approved, through insurance, and we installed the gentleman's roof. Things were great. He was happy with everything. And then, this was August of my first year. So this was probably my 4th month in, and,
so 21, right?
21, August of 21. And then maybe in late 22, he wanted us to do some painting around his chimney and thought of us and wanted us to, he was so pleased with the work we did on the roof. He thought we could do something. So we got our painting team together and went out there. But when he invited me out to kind of explain everything, I went to a side door and I knocked, and he literally took like 2 steps back and he's like, Wyatt, I almost didn't recognize you. And again, admittedly, I had put on probably 25 pounds, maybe 30 pounds.
Why do you think you put on so much weight? Were you stress eating?
Yeah. I mean, just the stress eating and just when I'm on the road, when you're on the road and running a lot of appointments, I've never, salads don't fill me up.
Okay.
And packing a lunch, I can't think of anything worse than packing a lunch. So
when you were growing up in Frederick's house.
Yeah.
Did they make you pack a lunch, or you could eat at school?
I could eat at school, but I'd say I had a packed lunch at least 4 out of the 5 days. Pizza day was always a good day to buy lunch.
Speaking of pizza, all right, back to your story.
Okay, so back to speaking of pizza. So yeah, we got to talking, and he insinuated I'd put on a few pounds, and I said, yeah. I said, it's tough life on the road. And we walked out to my truck for me to get something, and as I opened the door, a Wendy's bag, crumpled up Wendy's bag from my lunch that day, fell out of my car door. He's like, oh, Wendy's. I said, yeah, well, this is probably part of the additional weight that I've put on. And then he looks in my truck, and there was one of those pizza triangle cases. And he's like, well, I didn't know Wendy's serves pizza. And I just looked at him and I said, they don't. And that was probably from breakfast or the day before. But yeah, so it was a couple different things that led to it. But now we're going in the right direction.
But this homeowner that was, he was super healthy. He was like a CrossFitter.
He was in no position to really critique my physique. No.
I love that story. Thanks for sharing that. It's one of my favorites. So kind of to bring this thing full circle, you've talked about 2 hard resets, 2 things, one you were kind of forced into, and one you kind of were like, I'm going to take a leap of faith on this reset. What do you wish you would have known before? Like, what do you wish you would have known about this reset to make it easier, or to make it like, yeah, absolutely do this, go all in on it? Is there anything you wish you would have known?
I mean, I wish I would have known that I would have the results that I'm having 4 years down the road and previously leading up to it. Because again, you can't predict the future. And it's one of those things where you're always like, am I going to be good at this? Do I have what it takes? Do I have the grind? Do I have the extrovert in me? Because I'm not an extrovert by any means, to go out and meet people and make your own leads and meet realtors and meet business owners and things like that. If somebody had just said to me and said, Wyatt, in 5 years, you're going to be doing really well. You're going to be okay. That is something that I wish you could have. But nobody in life has that. You have to have that trust in yourself. You have to have that belief. You have to have that support system at home. You have to have the support system from your employer and who you work with on a daily basis. And ultimately, you will be okay. There's just not going to be this giant sign hanging over your fireplace that says everything's going to be all right. I mean, I guess we do see those in Atlanta back around COVID. Everything's going to be okay, but everything will be okay. But again, you got to pay your dues and put your work in.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I know you brought some art, and I want to bring it to everyone's attention.
All right, let me premise this is not the artwork I make now, but it was something that I thought we could have fun with because this is something I created my first year at art school. And they're all tiny little hand-painted pixels, and when you stand far away, it was me, much skinnier, much less racetrack pizza and Wendy's. But that was, when I was 19 years old in my Abercrombie and Fitch red hat. And that was just something I had fun doing for a color theory project, basically. And so it was, something I thought we'd have fun with. But what I do now is very, very different. And
yeah, I think it's fascinating because the closer that you get to it, and this is like super easy to hold right now. The closer you get to it, you're like, oh, that's just somebody coloring in a square. And then the further away you get from it, it's like, wow, it's an actual person. So what other art do you do?
Currently, the work I do that I show in galleries or used to show in galleries, it's on layers of plexiglass. And so when I was in graduate school, very influenced by my father, and they said, make your own work. I was very good at drawing pictures and doing things creative with pictures, rendering realistically if I had to, self-portraits, whatever. But they wanted me to challenge myself and go beyond more than just creating what I saw. And so what I did is I sat down and I started to think about, what in my life artistically has influenced me. And my dad naturally came to mind. And when you think of watercolors, you think of chance and you think of layering. And so I said, well, how can I take chance and layering and make it my own? And what I did is I started to paint on layers of plexiglass. And then the only thing that would kind of be cohesive through all the layers are the colors of the paint that I would use. But I wouldn't paint things on there. I would drop it. I would pour it. I would let artwork fuse. Sometimes a piece of plexiglass, once I put paint on it, it was enamel that, I'd go back the next day and it would have fused together in a way that I had not anticipated. But that's a chance element. And so I would take these multiple layers of plexiglass and then create a composition with them. So maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 layers deep. And squares, I could rotate 4 different ways and then I could change the orientation in there. So it's like a painting with 1,000 different views. And then on top of that, the color of the wall, being that it's clear plexiglass, the color of the wall became the background of the artwork. So if you put it on a blue wall, it had a totally different look than if you put it on a yellow wall or a white wall. So there was so much kind of controlling of chance that went into my artwork. And that was always very appealing to me because that was, in theory, what my dad kind of did was with watercolor is not meant to be controlled. It's meant to fuse together. It's meant to be blocks of color. And again, it was at a time, it was almost used as a sketching tool out in the field. And then you'd take it back to your studio and then you'd paint your oil painting based on that sketch. And so it's portable. And so again, I took these chance elements, and this layering and just kind of made my own artwork. And, it's fun to create. It's fun to do things with. I then even did some artwork, sports themed artwork of like the Red Sox and Yankees for some commissions up in New England, and I would spray paint them. And so I would stencil and spray paint these layers on plexiglass, and they're very realistic as well. But again, it's just a different avenue for almost the different temperaments that I have. Sometimes I want to be really precise and do these fine detailed work. And then there's other times I want to be more expressive and just pour and splatter some paint around. So it helps fulfill kind of the emotion maybe that I'm feeling when I create the artwork, but ultimately it is who I am, and it's a good portrayal of my upbringing. And if you think of the crux of what it is, of this chance and this layering, very similar to what my dad does.
Yeah. All right. So full circle to kind of bring this to a close. You grow up and you're like, I want to design golf courses, and then God's like, no, man, we're gonna let you be a golf coach, right? And then all of a sudden you get done with the golf coaching career, then you become an assistant pro, and then you became a salesman, and then you became a sales manager. What advice would you give someone that's like going through it right now in their life, where they're like in the midst of a hard reset, or they're it's coming, or they need to do it? Like, what advice would you give that person?
Being a very conservative person in my approach, I mean, I think everything through, there is something to be said for taking that chance. We get one ride on this merry-go-round, and we got to make the most of it. And if it's something that is even just a speck of thought in the back of your head, you got to give it that chance. Because right now, as much as I loved coaching and I loved the bonds that I made with the golfers, I would have done that for 30 years and I would have been happy. But it wouldn't have opened as many doors for me, I think, as what chance has allowed to happen in my life. Even something as negative as being let go and being unemployed for 8 months, it was worth it. And so again, don't wait, take the chance. It can prove far more advantageous than even what you think it might do.
I love that. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's hard, especially with someone with so much humility and humbleness to talk about themselves, but I think this was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yep. High five. All right. That was cool, right? The artist Wyatt, who lived in a house from the 1800s. I mean, that's crazy to me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Obviously, in closing, we just like to tell you that, first and foremost, we are a roofing company. And so if you know someone that's in need of a new roof, a roof repair, a gutter cleaning, new gutters, if they had a tree hit their house, we would love to be that company that you refer. So you can get all of our contact information below. That obviously helps pay for this. It's more important. We just want to crush some customer service for them. But can't wait to see you guys on the next episode.